Good afternoon, and welcome to our keynote, Human Rights in the Age of Artificial Intelligence. My name is Belén Roca, and I'm going to moderate this session along with Germán López. We are both part of YouthTack IGF, and it's a pleasure to have you here with our distinguished guests, and which I invite you to the front, please. So I'm going to introduce our panelists. First, Mrs. Bárbara Reyes. She is a lawyer and member of the Chilean Association of Information Technology Companies, ACTI. ACTI is one of the main business associations on tech in Chile, with more than 40 years of work shaping the public policy and regulatory environment of technology, digital services, and innovation in the country. Mrs. Reyes is also head of public policy and technology at Maglione Lawyer Firm. She was recognized by Best Lawyers 2024 on privacy and data security law and has an international law certificate on personal data protection. Mr. Bahaa El-Taweal is a global policy lead in Google's Human Rights Program. The team is responsible for advising product teams on the potential human rights impacts of emerging technology, including AI, conducting human rights due diligence, and engaging human rights experts and stakeholders around the world. Over the past 15 years, Bahaa has worked on various human rights, global security, and technology issues. He served as a senior policy operations manager and a lead on YouTube's counter-violent extremism and crisis response teams, tackling complex tech-related challenges such as hate speech, terrorism and radicalization, armed conflicts, and misinformation. Bahaa's commitment to human rights stems from his early career as a journalist in the Middle East, where he witnessed firsthand the fight for freedom and democracy. He holds a master's degree from Harvard University and a law degree from Alexandria University. And Mrs. Danielle Zaror is a professor at the Universidad de Chile School of Law and researcher of the Centro for Information Technology Law Studies at the same university. Mrs. Zaror has a law and social sciences degree from the Universidad of Concepción, a master's degree in commercial law, and a doctorate in law from the Universidad de Chile. She also has diplomas on electric and technology market regulation, cybersecurity, Asian studies, among others. So, sorry for that. I'm going to start the first of 5 key questions at the heart of AI ethics. And I will switch back to Spanish. I will switch now to Spanish to ask Bárbara, and then I will switch back in English to ask Bahaa the same question. Entonces, Bárbara, por favor, ¿cuáles son las responsabilidades éticas y legales de los desarrolladores y corporaciones que están involucradas en el desarrollo de herramientas de inteligencia artificial y cómo ellos cuáles son los mecanismos de rendición de cuentas por potenciales violaciones de derechos humanos resultantes de sus tecnologías?
Perfecto. ¿Se escucha bien? Bueno, antes que todo, muy buenas tardes. Muchas gracias por la invitación. Desde ACTI estamos felices y orgullosos de poder participar en estas instancias tan importantes y relevantes en la era digital actualmente. Contarles, antes de entrar a la pregunta, que en este año, en el 2024, ACTI está cumpliendo 40 años de vida, siendo el referente líder del sector de las tecnologías de la información en el país. Y en este periodo, ACTI, que es una asociación gremial, se ha consolidado como la Asociación Gremial de Empresas de Tecnología con más experiencia y siendo su misión fundamental impulsar la transformación digital, la innovación, estableciendo conexiones entre las tendencias globales con la realidad empresarial chilena. Y comentarles también que ACTI actualmente tiene más de 100 socios, 100 empresas socias, entre las cuales se destacan no solo socios como Google, que están actualmente hoy día presentes en esta actividad, no solo grandes tecnológicas, sino también pequeñas empresas de Chile relacionadas con el ámbito de la tecnología, y también tenemos desde el ámbito de la academia, ¿ya? Como DUOC, INACAP, que son institutos que tienen especializaciones en materia de tecnología. Con esto quisiéramos destacar entonces que esta asociación gremial, una de las principales fortalezas que tiene es que aporta al debate distintas miradas, distintas visiones, distintas formas en las cuales se está implementando y desarrollando la inteligencia artificial el día de hoy. No solamente desde la perspectiva de las empresas, sino también desde quienes están estudiando el desarrollo y la creación de estas nuevas tecnologías, y también desde el ámbito de la asesoría técnica y jurídica. Así también quisiera contarles que ACTI trabaja actualmente con más de 11 mesas de trabajo, y entre las que se destacan mesas especialmente dedicadas al estudio de la inteligencia artificial, del impacto que tiene la inteligencia artificial actualmente, tanto en diversos ámbitos, tanto en el capital humano, en la formación de las empresas y en distintas perspectivas. Así entonces, para entrar ya en la pregunta, quisiera comentarles que promover el desarrollo y la adopción ética y responsable de la inteligencia artificial en el sector TIC, fomentando el diálogo y la colaboración entre diferentes actores, siempre ha sido uno de los objetivos centrales de ACTI, de esta asociación gremial. Y efectivamente, al interior de la asociación gremial se conversa, se discute y se aborda la preocupación por las implicancias éticas del desarrollo de la inteligencia artificial en Chile, y no tanto o no solo desde la perspectiva de la industria, sino que también desde una perspectiva o a un nivel gubernamental, ¿ya? El uso que tienen, cómo se desarrolla también la inteligencia artificial desde este nivel más alto que es el Estado. Y así entonces, en este contexto, les quiero destacar que el compromiso de ACTI con la promoción de la inteligencia artificial, pero obviamente con el pleno respeto de los derechos humanos, no es solo posterior, no es solamente invitando a nuestras empresas, a las empresas socias, a quienes componen ACTI, al compliance, ¿cierto?, al cumplimiento legal y ético, sino que también nos centramos en una fase previa, en esta fase que es muy importante de promover y adoptar medidas positivas que protejan el respeto y el disfrute de los derechos humanos en el desarrollo en general de la tecnología, y más aún en este desarrollo de la inteligencia artificial actualmente. Y en este sentido, entonces, comentarles que ACTI ha implementado diversas acciones, ¿ya?, para fomentar el uso ético y responsable de la inteligencia artificial en Chile. Y así entonces, como les decía, contamos con una mesa especializada, que es la Mesa de Inteligencia Artificial, en la que se discuten estos temas y en la que se tiene por objetivo principal promover el desarrollo y la adopción ética y responsable de la inteligencia artificial en el sector de las TIC, fomentando el diálogo y la colaboración entre diversos actores. Así también, ACTI tiene un fuerte compromiso con la organización de seminarios, talleres y capacitaciones. Y esto no solamente al interior de la asociación gremial, sino que también fuera de ella, ya conectándola con la sociedad civil. O sea, acá quiero destacar que es muy importante que en ACTI no solamente hay un trabajo interno desde los distintos actores que la componen, sino que también hay un trabajo súper potente, súper fuerte y un compromiso muy grande con establecer redes hacia afuera y aportar la visión que puede proporcionar ACTI, las empresas que la conforman, ¿cierto?, al gobierno, a la sociedad civil. ¿Ya? La idea es que obviamente todo esto sea una relación recíproca en la que las empresas puedan aportar el conocimiento, puedan aportar también cómo están desarrollando la tecnología actualmente, cuáles son los impactos que están teniendo, para así ponerse a disposición de estos otros actores. Y esto también implica, desde luego, trabajar con el gobierno y con otras instituciones para crear un marco legal que fomente la innovación en la inteligencia artificial sin descuidar, por supuesto, la ética y la protección de los derechos humanos. Y en este sentido, entonces, quisiera comentarles que desde ACTI se ha valorado de manera muy positiva ya no tan reciente, pero la presentación por parte del gobierno de un proyecto de ley que propone regular el desarrollo de los sistemas de inteligencia artificial. Y en este sentido, lo destacamos de manera muy positiva porque lleva al debate legislativo esta materia, dando el espacio, ¿cierto?, de poder discutir cuáles son sus implicancias y hacia dónde queremos que Chile vaya con una mejor regulación. Y también, más aún positivo, destacamos que se anunció recientemente la conformación de una mesa público-privada para trabajar y discutir esta propuesta regulatoria, porque allí es donde entendemos que se puede dar este trabajo, o sea, que se dará finalmente este trabajo multi-stakeholders, donde obviamente estará la visión del Estado, la visión de la sociedad civil, la visión de la industria, lo que puede aportar las asociaciones gremiales de cómo queremos que sea la regulación y cómo queremos también que se protejan, que se resguarden los derechos humanos y cómo es que tienen que responder todos aquellos que participan en el ciclo de vida de la inteligencia artificial y que obviamente causen algún daño o transgredan de alguna manera los derechos humanos de las personas.
Muchas gracias, Bárbara. A continuación, Germán introducirá la siguiente pregunta para Bahaa.
Thank you very much, Bárbara, for telling us about the great work that ACTI and the trade associations have been doing here in Chile. I want to continue with the same question for Bahaa, this time in English. So, we want to ask you, what are the ethical and legal responsibilities of AI developers and corporations developing AI tools, and how can they be held accountable for human rights violations resulting from their technologies? We would like to know about your experience and the great work you've been doing in Google. So, thank you.
Well, thank you all for having me here today. And I apologize that I don't speak Spanish. My wife has been trying to teach me now for quite some time, but it hasn't been successful, and I realized this last night when I arrived at the airport. And I tried to use the few words I know in Spanish, asking where I can get Chilean pesos, but I was saying Bezos. And I just, like, everyone I asked was laughing at me, but now I know why. So I'm not gonna try to do this today. But I hope you can understand my conversation. And Bárbara, I apologize that I couldn't understand what you said, but I promise I'm going to watch the recording, and maybe I'll ask my wife to translate for me. But really, thank you so much for having me here today. When talking about technology and human rights is a topic that I personally care deeply about. Not only because of my professional life and what I do now at Google as part of its human rights team, but really on a personal level. I grew up in Egypt, and my family was really, really poor. And if it wasn't for the technology advances in the late 90s and early 2000s, I don't think I would be here today. I don't think my life would be the same. With that said, AI is providing a really fantastic and phenomenal opportunity to help a lot of people around the world, and this is what we believe in at Google, and I personally really believe in that. However, to create products and AI systems that truly deliver on the promise of helping people, making their lives better, there are a lot of things we need to do. One, we have to acknowledge that AI systems, they come with a huge risk. And this is no secret. There's potential to bias, potential discrimination, among many other things. And while these complicated and complex issues are not for one party and one stakeholder to fix, so we're not expecting only human rights groups and lawyers or professors and government to fix these problems alone, or for companies to fix these problems alone. It's really important to have a multi-stakeholder approach to these problems. These problems affect the whole of society, and they truly take the whole of society to address. And at Google, we have been our approach. We have what we call a bold and responsible approach to AI. What that means for us is two key things. One, that we have a responsibility to address the risk associated with AI systems. And then two, that we ensure that that we're maximizing the potential of AI and ensuring that everyone is benefiting from the potential of this very powerful technology. But how we translate this to actions, like what actually a company like Google is doing to ensure that its products, AI and AI products in particular, are safe and they are not, resulting in bias or discrimination or causing any other issues. So we do a lot of things to address this. So one, and this is not only for AI products, but really for all of our Google products, we have a commitment, and we embedded this in our culture and also in our processes, from research to developing and building a new product, to the launch of the product, to the post-launch of the product. And this culture is based on human rights, global human rights standards and best practices. And this is why we have my team, a human rights team that focus on the policy and ensuring this technology on our products adhere to human rights standards and do not violate international laws. But how would this also, again, translate into actions, in daily actions every day? So Google is has a massive user base. So for example, this session today, we're here for an hour. By the end of this session, and I'll give you just two examples from two products. People globally would have conducted on Google search close to 400 million searches, and would have uploaded to YouTube around 30,000 hours of content. So when you have such a huge user base and such a huge operation, you have also a huge responsibility to ensure that your products are serving these users and not hurting the users. So we do multiple things. One, on the research front. So we have research teams that their work is focused mainly on ensuring AI safety and think of creative solutions to address the problems associated with some of the AI models at scale. And we also have been sharing a lot of our research externally with other developers and researchers who work on AI safety. And then second, we embed our AI principles and our commitment to human rights in the entire life cycle of AI products, from identifying the problem that the AI system will be addressing, to to the research, to the data that will be used to build the model, to the development of the product, and so on. And it's really important that also this process continue after the product is out. So what we do not do is say, okay, we build this fantastic product, we tested the product, make it available to users, and it's the end of the story. So we continue to do a human rights due diligence and monitoring of our products to ensure that they are not causing harm, and if there are issues identified with them, we address them and so on. So this is one of our key approaches. And then the other thing also, if you want to build product or if you want this technology to be truly beneficial for everyone around the world, so everyone must be represented in these conversations around these products and the safety of these systems. So that's why we work with independent researchers, we work with academia, with civil society, we work with people from across the world to ensure that we are addressing any issues that might be impacting the products or impacting and therefore impact our users.
No, thank you very much, Bahaa, for those very insightful remarks of the great work you've been doing at Google, how we can promote this conversation about human rights and how can we ensure that technology is helping us to advance in these key issues, not only for technology, but for humanity as a whole. So thank you very much for that opinion. Ahora, unas palabras en español simplemente para agradecerles a todos por estar acá y vamos a continuar con la siguiente pregunta. Danielle, thank you very much for being here too. Just changing a little bit the subject, but we wanted to ask you, what role should international human rights bodies play in regulating the development and deployment of AI systems to prevent human rights abuse? So we would like to know your opinion and your views from academia, so thank you very much.
First of all, I would like to express my sincere congratulations to the organizers. I really know how hard it is to work in these kind of events. I would like to say thanks again for having me this afternoon. I will answer in English, in my best Latino English.
That's great.
The first thing that I want to say is this is a difficult time for the international human rights organizations. You don't have to be a PhD to realize that this kind of organization have not had the influence that they used to have in another time. There are many examples, sadly. The last 2 years, we have been witness of the tremendous failures in the case of Ukraine, in the case of Gaza. The Sustainable Development Goals are not only going down in the wrong path, but they are going backwards. This is a really, really bad news. But in this context, in September, and I really want to share with you good news. So in this context, in September of this year was held the United Nations Future Summit. This is the first good news. Because even though not everything is working well for United Nations, this organization is still doing its job, and it is as important that it continues to do so, because the United Nations is the truly global organization that is working today. The role that the United Nations played in this aspect was to ask itself, how do we govern artificial intelligence and how to keep it at the service of the humankind? Answering this question is difficult because there are many, many ambitions to govern this technology. I don't know if you have heard about the book, The Digital Empires, but in that book, the professor, I forgot her name, she described how China, how European Union, how United States are trying to influence this tremendous power. But also there are fragmented approaches that, and the worst thing is the Global South is completely absent in these discussions because we are rarely considered in these forums. So don't forget, this is the very first good news. Today we have a global organization concerned about this topic. The second good news is that this working group agreed to work on a global governance framework. And this is already a triumph for itself. If we remember my words at the beginning, no? In a world where the people are not talking, this is really a light in the darkness. The third good news is that the International Scientific Group on Artificial Intelligence will be created. As you know, the artificial intelligence is a complex issue, and have a scientific group trying to providing real information and trying to reach a common understanding that allows to us to understand its risk and their impact depending on the context. And this is very important because today the big tech companies are all in the north of the planet, and they in some way share some ways of life. But the different countries have totally different ways to face their challenge, and the context implies that some measures that are appropriate in some contexts are not in others. And this is also important because this working model is the result of the lesson learned about climate change, because the evidence provided for the IPCC was so eloquent that today no one disputes the relevance of this problem, the climate change, and the aspiration of this working group is that something similar occur with the artificial intelligence working group.
Now, thank you very much, Danielle, for those very helpful insights. Solo un pequeño asterisco. Aquellos que necesiten equipos de traducción pueden ir a recogerlos afuera, que ya están también de nuevo disponibles. And we're going to be switching back to Bárbara for a new question, but Belén.
Thank you, Germán. Before going to the next question, I would like to present our online moderator, Mrs. Jumana Baghabrah, PhD student at the Department of Computer Sciences at the University of Oxford. She's in charge of the online questions for this keynote, which we'll have a blog segment for them at the end of the presentations. Ahora, Bárbara, ¿qué políticas son necesarias para responder al potencial impacto de la inteligencia artificial en los derechos laborales, incluyendo asuntos sobre gerencia algorítmica y desplazamiento de trabajos por la inteligencia artificial?
Bien. Es una pregunta muy compleja, difícil, porque desde la asociación gremial las hemos tratado de abordar en diferentes instancias. Como les comentaba hace un momento, en ACTI se trabajan en distintas mesas de trabajo. Una de ellas, por ejemplo, es sobre capital humano. Justamente en esa mesa se aborda este tipo de preguntas. Y es difícil encontrar soluciones a una tecnología, a un desarrollo que está en constante avance, en constante evolución, que cada día aparece algo nuevo. De hecho, y esto es una experiencia muy personal, pero hasta hace un par de semanas estaba haciendo unos cursos para aprender nuevas habilidades en sistemas de inteligencia artificial, y de una clase a otra, una de las herramientas ya había cambiado considerablemente, había evolucionado de un día a otro. Entonces, es difícil tener una respuesta certera y concreta para las políticas que se necesitan para abordar el impacto potencial de una inteligencia artificial, porque muchas veces implica incluso ponerse en supuestos hipotéticos. Desde luego que dentro de la asociación gremial y a través de todos los socios que se tienen, hemos conversado y hay un acuerdo, ¿cierto?, en que obviamente estas políticas tienen que buscar, ¿cierto?, el desarrollo, por ejemplo, de sistemas de inteligencia artificial que no perpetúen los sesgos existentes, que garanticen la privacidad y la seguridad de los datos que se utilizan para entrenar estos sistemas de inteligencia artificial y para ejecutarlos. También, por supuesto, hay un acuerdo y hay un consenso en que se tienen que considerar las consecuencias sociales y económicas de la inteligencia artificial y mitigar los posibles impactos negativos que ellas tienen. Y es así entonces que dentro de la asociación vamos discutiendo y logrando estos consensos que creemos que tienen un valor muy importante porque vienen desde, muchas veces, vienen desde dentro de las empresas que están desarrollando inteligencia artificial y que son quienes nos pueden proporcionar desde primera fuente qué es lo que están viendo. Y que desde luego muchas veces no son solamente impactos negativos, sino que también muchas veces son impactos positivos. Pero abordando ya la pregunta, como les comentaba, desde ACTI se han abordado varias ideas a partir de las cuales se ha discutido sobre las áreas que las políticas deberían considerar, ¿cierto?, para poder ir mitigando este potencial impacto en los derechos laborales que tengan los distintos sistemas de inteligencia artificial. Y así entonces hemos considerado que es esencial la formación y la adaptación al cambio. Sabemos que posiblemente va a venir una reconversión laboral. Ya la rápida evolución de la inteligencia artificial implica que posiblemente algunos trabajos sean automatizados. Como les comentaba, yo creo que el trabajo de cada uno de los que está acá ha ido cambiando día a día con el desarrollo de la inteligencia artificial, porque algo que hacíamos hace un tiempo, cuando estudiábamos y teníamos que leer un libro completo, ahora hay herramientas a las que podemos dotar de fuentes, ¿cierto?, y hacerle preguntas. Entonces, nuestro mismo día a día va cambiando con este desarrollo. Entonces, sabemos que eso también se va a ir trasladando a los derechos laborales y en realidad a toda la vida. En ese sentido, entonces, es que hemos estado promoviendo desde la asociación programas de reconversión para los trabajadores que posiblemente puedan verse afectados por estas automatizaciones de ciertas labores. Como les comentaba, la mesa de capital humano específicamente es la que aborda de manera específica, tiene como objetivo mejorar los indicadores de diversidad, inclusión y género, incrementando la calidad y cantidad de técnicos y profesionales del área de las TI. Y con esto, entonces, queremos destacar que la asociación gremial y la industria en general reconoce la necesidad de ir desarrollando nuevas habilidades relevantes para la era digital. Todo eso, por supuesto, acompañado de educación continua, una continua capacitación de los trabajadores, y acá, como les comentaba también hace un tiempo, o sea, hace un momento, desde ACTI tenemos esto, que no solamente nos tenemos que preocupar al interior de la asociación gremial, sino que vamos como por capas, ¿cierto? Vamos desde adentro, desde la asociación gremial hacia nuestros socios y después de ahí hacia las distintas relaciones que vamos teniendo con los otros actores que son sumamente relevantes. Y finalmente ya para culminar, destacar que sí hemos llegado a un consenso generalizado, porque ACTI, otra de las cosas muy positivas que tenemos al interior de la asociación gremial es que vamos como alineando a la industria, ¿cierto? Vamos encontrando estas sinergias que tienen los distintos actores dentro de ACTI y que nos van aportando cómo ellos han vivido hasta el día de hoy estas nuevas regulaciones a propósito del desarrollo de la inteligencia artificial. Y lo que sí hemos concluido es que las políticas deben ser o deberían tender a ser flexibles. Buscar regulaciones flexibles que tengan la capacidad de poder ir adaptándose rápidamente a estos cambios tecnológicos y a los avances que, como les comentaba, día a día van cambiando, día a día van evolucionando y las políticas que se determinen tienen que tener esa capacidad, poder ir también adaptándose y no quedar tan rígidas con la amenaza de que queden obsoletas en un corto tiempo.
Muchas gracias, Bárbara.
Thank you very much, Bárbara, for your remarks. That's very insightful to see how trade associations are working here in Chile and giving that really important role of aligning interest in the private sector. So thank you very much for that. Now for the second round of questions, I want to ask Bahaa, particularly from the perspective of Google and the work that you have been telling us, that I think you kind of already talked a little bit about this, is how can AI can be designed to avoid reinforcing biases and discrimination, particularly in areas such as hiring, healthcare, and law enforcement. So, thank you.
Thank you. So, when we think, again, when we think about the risk and the impact, I don't believe that there's one solution you would do today fix all the problems. I think it's really, really important that we continue monitoring these products and these AI systems and make sure that we are continuously making improvements to them to address the issues that we are aware of today and the issues that we're not aware of yet and that we'll discover in the future. Some of the practical things we do at scale is a common and well-known community practice called red teaming. And basically, before you launch a product, and I'm oversimplifying, you have a new AI tool or new AI system, and you start testing this system through what we call the red teaming to see how or what kind of results or outcomes would come from the AI system when you are facing it with this type of test. So it's basically pressure testing the AI systems. So this is something that's very, very essential. And as we know, the technology is quite powerful. So red teaming alone, we realized won't be enough. So we took this to another new level, which is basically putting AI systems against each other. So AI, what we call AI-assisted red teaming. So basically, you have the very, very advanced AI system testing another system to see what kind of badness or problems could come out of the product or the system that you are testing. On top of this, we also rely on thousands of safety experts who work within Google, and they test the products, they identify the issues with them, we share this feedback with our product teams and make sure that we fix and address these problems. And then the other thing, we'll also work closely with experts from academia and civil society and other organizations to make sure that also the perspective from outside Google that we have, and we reflect this on the development of our products to mitigate the risk. But I want to go back to actually a point the professor mentioned, which is that a lot of the conversation, it is true, for a long time, a lot of the conversations have been happening in in the global north, and the global south maybe necessarily haven't been part of these conversations. So this is also an opportunity to make sure that the global south is part of these conversations that we are bringing these conversations and these perspectives. We're bringing these conversations to the global south and bringing the perspective of the global south to different product teams and the people who are building the technology, for sure. And then lastly, on the policy, I want to also take a step back and explain how we think about it briefly. So we believe that policymakers have a big task ahead of them, which is to create what we call an enabling policy environment. So, which means policies that will address the harm and risk associated with the technology, and also ensure that the technology will benefit the whole of society, not only a small part of society, and also think beyond just the harm and the risk and the distribution of the benefits, but also think about other very, very important and essential areas, which is infrastructure, for example. So you need policy that will allow to build strong infrastructure, because if you have great technology, but if you don't have the right infrastructure to adapt to this technology, you won't benefit from it. So investing in infrastructure is really critical. And then the other thing is definitely investing in the people. If you have the if you have the technology, you have the infrastructure, but you're not preparing your people or your society to use and adapt to this technology, you are not going to benefit from the technology. So we have some initiatives through Google. For example, in September, we announced $120 million fund to invest in training various communities around the world on AI tools and educating people on the technology and the ways they can use. We made available a lot of courses through Grow with Google. That's open to anyone around the world that can take these courses and help them, prepare for this upcoming age of AI. And finally, I know there are a lot of people in the room here who are students, and then personally I feel a little envious of all of you, because you're still studying while the technology is developing. You are not like me, have had a career for over 15 years, and now you're trying to learn all these new tools and adapt to this new reality. So I hope also you all see this on a personal level as a great opportunity for you.
Great. No, thank you, Bahaa, for that very insightful response. I think it's very important not only to point out the technological aspects of what you're doing on AI, but also how you're working with different multi-stakeholders and the policy perspective that Google has from all this very complex scenario that we have ahead of us with AI. So thank you very much for that. Just to finish with a last question for Danielle. How can international cooperation and policy harmonization be achieved to address the global impact of AI on human rights? So we would like to hear a little bit of your take on that.
I would like to say that this is a very difficult question I am only a law professor in a South American university. And if I had the answer to that difficult question, well, leaders would probably have it too. The problem is that global leaders apparently don't have the answer either. And I was trying to organize my ideas, thinking in this question, and I think that we have to ask ourselves, international cooperation for what? Mm-hmm. For what? To spread the knowledge about technology, to keep a balance with the use of natural resources and technology, international cooperation for get more investment in technology in the countries? For what? And I think that this is really a key issue to organize the efforts and to move first of all the governments. Usually we are thinking in international cooperation between governments, but in the technology conversation, the big tech companies are the key players. And this is a very new role that appears in the conversation of international affairs, for example. And in my modest experience, these companies are not being involved enough in this kind of conversation. And if you think these companies play a crucial role in cooperation and harmonization of policies, they are actors that are present in all countries. They are in contact with the people and authorities. They have the technology that is in the center of the conversation. They are interested in developing their business in an environment where the rule of law, I mean, el Estado de Derecho, ¿cierto? Would be respected. And this also makes them responsible for the objectives and for the results of their technologies. I was listening Bahaa when he was offering his speech, and he mentioned in a lot of moments the corporate culture. And I wanted to share with you some personal experience too. I had the privilege to visit 2 weeks ago the Silicon Valley, and I could visit different technology companies, and I could understand, I realized that the different companies have indeed different corporate cultures, and they are influencing the entire world. And for the governments, must be a real issue to invite these actors to understand what kind of corporate culture they are promoting with the spread of their technology. And I'm so sorry, probably I am not answering directly the question because I think it's difficult, but I think that the premise of the question must keep in mind fostering international cooperation for what? In the case of Latin American countries, and this is my last sentence, I think we have a lot of needs, and probably this international cooperation must be aligned with the kind of needs that Latin American countries need to prioritize.
No, thank you very much, Danielle, for that very honest answer to the question. I think we're just kind of trying to figure out how AI should work and how we should cooperate in the use of this new technology and the new challenges it poses. And just to wrap up real quick, thank you very much to our 3 speakers. Thank you very much for giving us your impressions on how we should tackle this very important challenge of human rights in the age of AI. I think it's very important to point out that we're talking about this in an internet governance scenario. So I think we already have many important things that we have learned through this process of internet governance that can also allow us to have these kind of discussions when we talk about AI governance. So there's a lot to do, and thank you very, very much again for your insights, and thank you very much for being with us. Just to finish, we would like to keep the floor to our online moderator, Jumana, in case there are any questions online. Okay, apparently there are not questions online, but again, thank you very much. And yeah, it was a pleasure having you all here, and let's keep talking. Y si alguien tiene una pregunta presencial también, por supuesto. No sé si alguno quisiera preguntar algo a los panelistas también, ya que no hay preguntas en línea. ¿No? Bueno, están tímidos. We have a kind of check. ¿Quién? Sí, sí, adelante. El micrófono está. Sonido.
Will we watch a video? Will we watch a video? No?
No. Si quieres en el podio mejor.
Voy a hablar en español si no hay problema. También para los que están en portugués, todavía no lo domino, entonces voy a hacerlo en español. Y la pregunta un poco es para, desde Google, ¿qué estrategias o herramientas o mecanismos están pensando o existen para que la sociedad civil pueda hacer veeduría en casos en donde los algoritmos estén teniendo sesgos racistas o incluso con percepciones que favorecen más intereses del norte global a las realidades que tenemos en América Latina y pues también en otras regiones que no necesariamente son el norte global. Como qué instituciones o mecanismos se están pensando para esto. Gracias.
Bahaa, I don't know if you were able to hear the
Yes,
question.
yes,
Yeah.
I did. Yeah. Right. Thank you so much for your question. Yeah. So I think, like, again, like to go back to what the professor mentioned earlier, what you said about the fact that a lot of these conversations historically have happened mostly in specific countries, and the rest of the world was not part of them. This is absolutely problematic, and I think the world has recognized this. Are we doing enough about it? Depends on who you ask. Are things perfect? I don't believe so. Can they get better? Absolutely. But I think one of the important steps to take is these types of forums and these type of conversations and the importance of bringing different perspective to them. So actually, while I really enjoyed the opportunity to participate here today, but the main reason I came actually to Santiago this week is because tomorrow we are hosting a summit for human rights stakeholders from multiple organizations from across Latin America and the Caribbean. And we have been conducting this type of conversation or this series globally. So in August, I was in Taipei, and we had the same conversations with groups from across Asia Pacific. And this week, as I mentioned, we'll have it with our stakeholders and our partners from different countries around the region. And really the goal of these conversations is to listen to the concerns of these stakeholders and the concerns of the communities they represent. We know that people who do work on the ground, especially civil society, who do work in their communities, have very unique and very valuable perspective and insights that others won't have. So we consider this as a very important thing to do, to take these perspectives and these insights and share them with our product teams and different, and also our senior leadership. And this is in one area. But also we have other partnerships with universities around the world, not only in the global north, outside of the global north, to ensure also that researchers and students have access to our technology and also participate in these conversations. So these are just a few simple examples of the things we are doing to address this. But I do agree that the conversation, like we could do more, and ensuring that these voices are represented and taken to Silicon Valley and other centers where these technologies are being developed is very crucial, and something that I believe Google cares about and invests in it a lot. I started this role in this role a few months ago, and I'm sure you might have heard about all the people in tech industry losing their jobs. So the fact that a company, instead of laying off the person who works on human rights, they hire more people to work on human rights, I think it says a lot about the company commitment to this. And again, I'm happy also to share my contact information with you and with all of you after the session, and to think if you have suggestions, if you have ideas of things we should do or could do to make sure that we're capturing the different voices and perspectives, that would be fantastic, and I would love to do that.
Thank you very much, Bahaa. ¿Hay alguien más con alguna pregunta? Si no,
Yo.
Sí.
Cortita.
Sí, adelante, Danielle.
I will ask you, Bahaa, do you know how many people is currently working on content moderation in Google around the world?
I don't have the exact number, but it's easy in the thousands. I mean, and and this, so we have two massive trust and safety teams. There's a trust safety team for YouTube working on content moderation issues, and they are distributed globally and covering various languages around the world. And also we have a team for what we call Google Trust and Safety, work on other Google products. But for content moderation in particular, YouTube has a huge team. So I'm new to this role, but before this role, I was in YouTube Trust and Safety, working on content moderation issues for the past 5 years. So this is just like the people working on content moderation is one part of the effort we do in this area. You have also what we call the market responsibility team, which basically a group of regional experts who cover particular regions to make sure that when we are working on new policy or facing a challenge, that we are addressing it from the perspective and have enough local context that reflects the region that we're addressing. So, I mean, before I joined tech, I think like 6 years ago, not all of these teams existed, but you can see across the industry there are more and more efforts to make sure that we that the decisions when the decisions are made, they are well informed by these the different and various regional expertise and perspectives. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for this amazing conversation about human rights in the age of AI.